that day, weren't you?
Yo, it's Overreaction Monday, and the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0. The magic number for the Phillies is 1. Are you kidding me? Overreaction Monday, and this is what we've got to talk about. Guys, stay tuned. It is going to be crazy. Trending in the AM starts in 30 seconds.
Holding gets around in front. And Philadelphia has it.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all of the social media platforms wherever you are watching. And if you want to get interactive with the show, the Facebook page or the YouTube page is the best place to do that. If you head over to the YouTube page, you hit the like button, the subscribe button, drop your comments, just like my examples that I've got set up on the screen, or like my main man Kyle right here. Let's effing go Birds. Absolutely. I am your host, Phil Stifle, at Bearded Knowledge on Twitter. I got my main man, Jason Voorhees, at Mustang3651, sitting next to me today. Good morning, Jason. And isn't it so much better to wake up on a Monday morning to do a show after an Eagles win? And it's 4 wins in a row to start the season.
I mean, this is getting crazy. I mean, I had the Eagles at 12-5 coming into the season, and I had a loss against the Vikings, and I had the Jacksonville game as a possible loss because of.
I see. It's funny you say that because I just pulled the sheet from that show and I wrote it down. I had win-win, loss against Washington, win against the Jags. You had win-win-win, loss against the Jags.
Okay, so I did.
Got the notes right here. Got the notes. But we both had them 3-1 to start the season. They are 4-0. I mean, we all had a lot of high hopes for this Eagles team. And we're going to get into the game and the details of the game as a whole shortly here. But we all had high expectations. I think the Eagles had high expectations, Jason. But what does it say that they can come out and not just meet those expectations, but is crush those expectations? Is that too big of a word to use? Or just exceed those expectations almost so easily? It's kind of crazy to think.
Well, I think the biggest factor, and it's the factor that you touched on all your shows, we touched on it all through the summer, was that the difference between the Eagles being elite and just good is the progression that Hurts would be able to take. Could Hurts make that leap to a better, to a top tier quarterback? And right now, what he's showing me, and obviously yesterday he didn't even throw a touchdown, but he won the game again. And see, the Eagles have shown me over 4 games that they can beat you through the air, they can beat you by running, or they can beat you by balance. They beat you each way. And the defense, I mean, obviously, I didn't watch the game yesterday. I had to work, so I'm sure you'll be able to touch on more of the highlights. But what I could tell from this team is they have an ability to kind of put away those slow starts and kind of, buck the trend. Because when I first turned on when I was at work, I kept checking in on the game, and I believe it was 14-0.
Yeah, they went down 14-0 early. They came out Jacksonville. They caught the Eagles flat-footed right from the get-go. But guess what? Most teams down 14-0, they would just pack it in. I mean, that in that weather, in that situation, that's a recipe to cave, to collapse. And would anybody fault the Eagles for losing in that weather conditions, in the Doug Peterson homecoming? There were plenty of check marks that could have gone against the Eagles. That down 14-0 up. No one's going to think twice if the Eagles are 3-1 and that's their first loss. No one would have thought twice. But what did the Eagles do? They lost in those first 2 drives where they went down 14-0. They lost Darius Slay for the game. They lost Jordan Mailata for the game. Jalen Hurts threw one of the worst interceptions he's thrown in his career. that went for a pick six. All those check marks. And instead of collapsing and folding, they rallied, they turned it around, and they were able to come back and score. I think it was 21 unanswered points or 20 unanswered points before the Jags scored again. And that just shows you it's, we've talked about it 100 times, the intangibles, not just a Jalen Hurts, but Nick Sirianni as well off the field. Those two leaders of this team, the one thing the Phillies do not have, leaders from management or players that could turn negatives into positives and give you that feeling that, don't slouch your head. This isn't over. And I think that is the biggest takeaway from yesterday's win is that this team is never out of a game. They're never going to give up at any point.
I mean, I can't disagree with anything you said.
If anybody wants to disagree in the comment section on that little statement I just made, I'm just going to throw you out of the comment section.
I mean, the guy that's kind of been pleasantly surprising to me, and listen, I've never doubted that the guy has talent, but it's Miles Sanders.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm looking at the box score, and he had 27 rushes. That might be his. I don't know if that's a career record for him, but it's got to be up there. I don't remember Miles having over 20 rushes in the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So to have 27 rushes, obviously that shows that they have faith in him. That's your coach saying, "Here's the ball, go get us."
Well, I mean, you might have missed it, but after the game, when Nick Sirianni came to the podium for his press conference, the first thing he did was he shouted out, "Miles Sanders is my number one running back." That goes to him pandering to his players, and I used to call it pandering, but it's really showing support for his players. So he flat out said, because obviously we all questioned Miles Sanders this offseason. We questioned him in training camp, and he's shut us all up, completely shut us up. The people that wanted Kareem Hunt or Josh Jacobs or the people that wanted Chase Edmonds or whoever was on the trade block or available. Do we need those guys at this point? No. Miles Sanders has shut all of us up completely through the first 4 weeks. And yesterday, going 27 rushes, I do think you're right. It may have been he set some kind of a personal record yesterday. I was kind of tuning out of the game. It was after the game was over, and either that or his yardage was a career high. I don't know which one it was. I'm assuming it was rushing and all. But you have Boston Scott out, who would fit into a bad weather. Boston Scott's more, even though he's a small guy, he's a straightforward runner. He doesn't juke and jive like Miles Sanders. So you would think that our running game would have hurt yesterday without Boston Scott. Kenneth Gainwell barely saw the field. Trey Sermon was on there for 2 plays, 2 more than I thought he would be on there for. Miles Sanders is a juke and jive kind of running back, but if you go back and watch the highlights, a majority of his runs were either straight downhill or one cut and then straight downhill. He didn't do his typical bounce around with the bad weather and the wet turf. So, and on top of all that, you lost Jordan Mailata 4 plays into the game.
Is that serious? Because I didn't.
I cannot wait to hear today. They said he left. It was the first drive. He got hurt trying to make a tackle on the pick six. His shoulder, I guess when he reached out the way he landed. He didn't come back out in the first half. He did come back out in the second half in pads, and they were working him out on the sideline. So that, to me, tells me that in a pinch he would have been available, and maybe it wasn't super, super serious. But Jack Driscoll was doing damn well at left. At the first play or two, he gave up some pressure. But after that, he got back into a little rhythm, and he did fine, so they did not need to bring him in there. I would be more concerned with Darius Slay's injury than Jordan Mailata. Jordan Mailata looked like, give it a week, they'll be able to figure out a way to make him ready to play. But that just goes to show how important. I'm not sure exactly how he got hurt. They didn't really – dude, the CBS crew, man, I've been bitching about the Fox crew all year. The CBS crew wasn't much better. If it wasn't for Twitter and the beat reporters of the Eagles saying Darius Slay was hurt, we wouldn't have known. The reporters, I think it took 2 or 3 drives after it was reported on Twitter that he went back to the locker room. I think it was 2 or 3 drives before the reporters even announced that Darius Slay wasn't in the game.
2 or 3 drives.
Yeah, it was pretty bad job on their part on that. But the importance we talked about it. People kind of forget Andre Dillard, and he was hurt. because everybody was clamoring on Twitter yesterday. Why isn't Andre Dillard out there instead of Jack Driscoll at left tackle? Well, he's out. The fact that we have so much depth on this offensive line, we talked about it all offseason, how important it is. You get someone like Jordan Mailata goes down on any other team, your running game falls to pieces and collapse. But yet you got somebody like Jack Driscoll, step right in, you don't miss a beat. It's so important. You needed to be able to run the ball effectively yesterday to win the game. They put the ball, the Jaguars, in Trevor Lawrence's hand because they couldn't effectively run the ball. And Trevor Lawrence showed his inexperience in playing in bad weather and in that type of environment with that much pressure, being 2-1 and all the hype. You needed to be able to run the ball effectively. Losing Jordan Mailata should have hurt the team. It didn't, because you got excessive amount of depth on that offensive line.
Yeah, Jordan fell.
Yeah, so he fell trying to make the tackle on the interception. Yeah, Kyle was just saying what I was saying there.
Well, I mean, like I said, I look at, I mean, that's why I didn't want to trade. I remember everyone wanted to trade Dillard for the safety,
Jeffrey Bates,
the Bengals, and I'm so glad that we didn't do that, because
he's not even on the field. I don't know when he'll be back on the field, Andre Dillard, but
no, but my point is this is the reason why. I mean, like you just nailed it. Like, the fact is, and we have more depth other than Dillard. I mean, that's just how deep this offensive line runs. And a lot of
Suopeda came in because Isaac Seumalo got hurt late. I think it was in the third quarter. Let me check the snap count here. Isaac Seumalo played 76% of the snaps. So it was probably somewhere late in the third quarter that Seumalo went down. His injury actually looked the worst. His injury, he got his ankle stepped on on a run play, and he looked like he was in a massive amount of pain.
I think I saw it from you on Twitter, because I actually follow you because you were live tweeting. So I was following your tweets.
65 tweets during that game yesterday.
Trying to understand what was going on in the game, in real time. And I think I remember you tweeting about, the injuries. So but you didn't have a specific person. So I got nervous.
Let's be honest. In that bad weather kind of environment, people are going to get banged up. People are slipping and sliding all over the field. It's a sloppy kind of environment to play football in. I'm just hoping that none of the injuries are too serious. I'm a little concerned about Seumalo, but we've got enough options at guard there to fill in. Driscoll could play guard. You got Opeda. You got options there. Mailata looked like he was doing better on the sideline. Darius Slay obviously got banged up really badly there. That concerns me. Let me look on the defense. I think that was the only real concern on defense. Yeah, they're the three main injuries that you worry about. And then obviously the other cause concern injury-wise would be Jalen Hurts. I mean, he took a lot of big hits yesterday. Obviously heavy running game. He was featured right there with Miles Sanders rushing the ball a lot. His touchdown rush up the middle. No one was stopping him. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a linebacker or safety with Jalen Hurts running straight on at me. But let's be honest. I mean, he took a massive hit on that touchdown. And, I hope the weather's good next week, in Arizona, because we need a game where we could just have him drop back and pass the ball 40 times and not take any hits. Because, it's kind of important to take care of him there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, as you said, 4-0, baby. 4 wins, no losses. As I said, we've done it different ways. I mean, we beat the Lions in a shootout. Obviously we beat Washington in a kind of a defensive. We destroyed Wentz. We beat the Vikings on national TV handily, and now we kind of face the upstart Jaguars, who like you said, you would compare them to the 16 Eagles, and I think that's a great comparison. I think it's
let's look at that Jaguars team and what our defense was able to do to them. I mean, they put up 38 points against the Chargers last week. The Chargers were missing, well, not missing, but we're starting to banged up, Justin Herbert, but so maybe they couldn't score as much, but the Chargers have a really strong defense as well. They got one of the Bosa boys. They got plenty of players on defense. They put up 38 points. We held James Robinson to 29 rushing yards, the whole team to 71 rushing yards. Trevor Lawrence, 11 to 23. A bunch of those yards came late in the fourth quarter when they were down 2 scores. So you know, we were able to shut them down, even missing Darius Slay for a majority of the game. I think one of the key things, and I don't want to even say it was an overreaction. What I want to say is it shows the experience of the Eagles and the culture the Eagles have. And this is not a knock on Doug Peterson, but maybe a little bit on Doug Peterson, is that the Eagles came out yesterday. The first drive or two, they had a game plan to pass the ball. They were not going to worry about the weather. And obviously they saw that they could not effectively run their typical stretch the field big plays where they lead the league in, effective big plays or whatever that stat is. They realized that wasn't going to work. And then they switched it. 2 drives, boom. Let's change our philosophy. Let's adjust on the fly. Let's do what works. The Jaguars, on the other hand, we all know what kind of offense that Doug Peterson likes to run. He put the ball in Trevor Lawrence's hand, and he never took it out of Trevor Lawrence's hand. There's no reason in yesterday's situation that they should have had more passing plays than rushing plays. But they did. They kept feeding the ball. James Bradbury, massive game locking down Christian Kirk. He had 2 catches, both late in the game. He was literally catchless till the 4th quarter. But they kept going towards him. They kept throwing the ball instead of using what they had, which was the ability to run the ball with James Robinson and ATN. It just goes to show how much confidence we should have in this coaching staff to adjust. We talk about it in all our 5 major sports, when coaches can't make adjustments in game. Talk about it with Glenn Rivers. We've talked about it with Rob Thompson and making adjustments to his bullpen usage or his lineup, who leads off, who hits cleanup, whatever. Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. Jonathan Gannon had a great game plan yesterday. They know how to make adjustments, and they know how to swallow their pride, Jason. All right, what we thought was going to work isn't going to work. All right, I was wrong. Let's do this instead. And I think that's huge and an underrated thing that goes on right now in this Eagles locker room.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I got to be honest with you. Like I said, I wanted Nick Sirianni out last year. That was my early reaction. Of course, that would fit well on this show, Overreaction Monday. Right, but he's definitely proved, and I don't think just Sirianni. I think the whole coaching staff. I think Jonathan Gannon has truly shown signs of improvement over the last, I would say, 3 weeks. He's definitely shown that he adjusted to getting his players in better positions to be able to make plays. And that's so important as a coach, because this team went out and Howie made a lot of moves and got a lot. He bolstered this defense in a big way. I mean, not just through the free agency. I mean, the drafting of Jordan Davis,
which I do real quick. I do want to touch on that. I am surprised Jordan Davis, his snaps and his snap count went down. He went from 38% down to 36% yesterday. Wow. And the plays he was on the field, he was effective. Even on plays he didn't stuff the run. There was one play, I forget whether it was Robinson or ATN, was able to hit the corner and get 8 or 9 yards downfield, and he was the one making the tackle 9 yards down the field, not the safeties or whatever. Even though he's a 7 foot, he's like the Big Show in the WWE. He's that big, and he still.
What kind of play did he make? I saw a tweet that you made about something about Big Truck Davis or something.
I mean, it was one of his early plays. I don't know. It was just him getting into the backfield and blowing up a run.
Yeah, I thought he got a sack or something.
No, he's just a big man, and he's hard to stop. And I'm looking at the snap count on this defense right now, Jason. Obviously, Epps, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Bradbury all played 100% of the snaps. There's only 47 defensive plays. So, I mean, compared to 82 of our offense was on for 80, we dominated the time of possession. So maybe Jordan Davis being on the field for a little bit less is also part of the game flow because we controlled the ball on offense, et cetera. But, something that from week 1 to now, and you talk about Jonathan Gannon, but also the names that Howie Roseman brought in here, Hassan Reddick, his usage percentage of snaps, but also the Jonathan Gannon usage of him, how he's using him, has flipped the script massively in the last 4 weeks. He's gone from dropping into coverage to just doing what he does well, and that's get after the quarterback. And now guess what? He goes, no sacks for the first 2 weeks. And guess how many sacks he's got now?
4?
3.5.
Okay.
So he had 2 sacks this week, another strip sack. Last week he had a sack and a half. All of a sudden, Jonathan Gannon, again, swallows his pride. This is what I wanted to do. It's not working. This is what works. Let's use it. The ability for these these coaches to make adjustments on the fly, even though it says that they were wrong at first, I love it. It's like swallowing a little humble pie. You know what I mean? And going with it.
Yeah, I mean, it bodes well for the team moving forward because you want to see how your coaching staff can, show a quiet confidence in their team, not just by vocally coming out and not like you had said, Sirianni came out and said Miles is my number one running back, but like you don't have to just speak vocally. You have to show quiet confidence in the way that you run the team. And I think being able to being able to make adjustments, that shows your team that you're able to kind of look in the mirror. And if you are the problem or you are part of the problem, that you're willing to kind of put that aside, in order to win a game. Yeah. And players see that. I mean, you trust me. I mean, when your boss is a certain way. Every boss has a certain way about them and a certain mentality that they bring to the game. And obviously, these guys have done a great job over the last couple games of adjusting and getting this team where it needs to be. And I think yesterday is the perfect example of it because we had talked about it in the days leading up to the game. We knew it was going to rain, and we kind of talked about, well, will the Eagles adjust their play calling and kind of go more to the run base? And I think we all saw that coming. Absolutely. We all kind of thought that would be the smart way to go, in a game that's going to be basically played in the rain, that you should go to your number one strength, which is the run. And not that they didn't pass the ball. I mean, Hurts had 200 yards passing, but obviously
they still and on that, I mean, he still has showed, man, AJ Brown. I mean, people are going to you're going to see, you missed the game. You're going to see a lot of people bashing AJ Brown after yesterday's game. We'll get to that in a second. But the connection between Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown still in that bad weather, having a wide receiver that can just out muscle, out strength. It's not just that he's a great wide receiver. He's just so strong. He's a borderline tight end strength in a wide receiver body.
He is.
I mean, when that ball is fluttering at you in the rain, and there's just no doubt that he's going to catch the ball, and he's not going to get bodied up by anybody. It's great. You missed it on the interception pick 6. AJ Brown did have an opportunity to make the tackle on the interception, and it was probably one of the worst attempts, one of the laziest attempts ever by a player to tackle somebody ever. He just wanted no part of trying to make a tackle whatsoever.
Well, that's not good.
No, he's going to take a beating, and he probably knows it today when he wakes up that he is going to take a beating for his lack of effort there on that pick 6.
Well,
you got Jordan Mailata laying out, hurting his shoulder, but you've got A.J. Brown just he basically just watched the guy run right by him.
Well, then
it was pretty bad.
He deserves our criticism.
Oh, he's going to get criticized for it, and rightfully so. I mean, a pick 6 on the opening drive of a game, that's a momentum changer right there. That could have been the play that, turned the tides on the season. But anyway, back to this season and the way this team's playing, everything is just clicking on all 4 cylinders like perfectly right now. There can't be any doubt, Jason, right now. Almost everybody, I think, at DSM Media had the Eagles number 1 in our power rankings last week. And some people might call us homers because the Eagles were 3-0, but, we didn't have the Dolphins in first place or we dropped the bill, whatever. After this week, remaining the only undefeated team through 4 weeks, can there be any doubt now? At this point, the Eagles are the best team, at least playing-wise, in the NFL at this point.
I mean, no. It's
not an overreaction team, right?
See, that's what's frustrating. That's what power rankings are. Power rankings are week-to-week lists. They're week-to-week. They change on the fly. Like, some of these nitwits don't get that. They were like, you had the Vikings out of the list. I was like, yeah, but I had them in the list a week prior, and they were like the 4th best. So it goes week to week. power rankings are also opinions. So everyone has one. Okay. So don't assume that just because we had the Eagles number one that we're just homers. Yes, we are homers.
But now, after the way this past week went, the other teams that were even in the Eagles category, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Miami Dolphins, the Ravens, the Bills-Ravens battled it out. The Bills barely beat the Ravens. So while they still could be in the top 2 or 3, you can't put them ahead of the Eagles. At this point, you can't put the Chiefs ahead of them. I know they smoked Bucks, which I was massively surprised at how the Chiefs were able to just manhandle the Bucks, because the Bucks have a really good defense, and they were able to manhandle them last night. Very surprised there. But the Chiefs, because they still got a bad loss on their record last week, you can't put them ahead of them. The Dolphins lost the game, so they're not undefeated. Hell, you might have an argument to put the Cowboys up in the top 10, and even the Giants at this point. Who would have thought after week 1 and 2 that it would have been the Giants and the Cowboys at 3-1 and not Washington? But it's not being a homer. And I think you're going to see a lot of NFL national pundits start ranking the Eagles and giving them the credit they deserve this week in power rankings, in conversations. I bet you if you turn on ESPN right now, what's on in the morning? Get Up or First Take, whatever's first. I guarantee the Eagles are one of the lead stories today. You know, obviously that clown Skippy Bayless, he'll probably want to talk about the Cowboys first, but you know, the Eagles should be the lead conversation on every single national channel right now.
Unfortunately, I think the lead conversation is Antonio Brown, but we know why.
My God. I wasn't even going to bring him up on the
show.
No,
but it's just, yeah.
The lead story should be the Dolphin situation.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Well, you saw the independent doctor that cleared him last Sunday was fired. I still think that there's got to be more repercussions there, you know, with the team itself. But that's a conversation either for later in the show or another day. I just want to, you know, stick on the Eagles because that should be the lead conversation. They are the best team in the NFL at this point. They've got, in my opinion, the league MVP at this point through 4 games, Jalen Hurts. If you're not going to put him as MVP, then you're just being a hater of Jalen Hurts. You're not going to give Nick Sirianni credit towards Coach of the Year at this point, then you're just going to be a hater at this point. I don't want to sound overreaction Monday-ish. I don't want to sound like a homerish, but there's no argument you can make that the Eagles don't deserve the credit that they should be getting right now after starting the season 4-0.
Not only are the Eagles 4-0, they have a plus 44 differential in points. I mean, that's the highest by far. The next closest, I believe, is I'm looking at it right now. The next closest to the Eagles as far as differential in points. Oh, I'm sorry. Eagles are second. The Bills are plus 56. Okay, still.
I wonder where they fall in turnover differential because they've now won that battle multiple weeks in a row. Even though they got no sacks in week 1, weeks 2, 3, and 4, they're tops in the league in sacks, so I don't know where that puts them overall. Like, this team is literally clicking on every single cylinder. They're doing every single thing well. And we're going next week to Arizona. Does Arizona really scare you next week? I mean, I don't know. Again, you worked. I watched some of that Arizona-Carolina game.
No, I got this. I was done. I got done work.
Yeah. So all the Arizona Cardinals do is let Kyler Murray drop back, run around in circles, and hopefully find somebody open. And the second thing they do is Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury arguing. That's all that team does. You can't be fearful of that team. Not at this point. You can't. This team is trending, the name of the show, not just to be the best team right now, to keep this going for a pretty long stretch. Now, the Cowboys game might be a tough one if Dak is back. I don't buy the Cooper Rush hype. I know he hasn't lost yet, but I don't buy that. I don't buy the Cowboys as a scary team, honestly. But not without Dak, at least. But I mean, I joked. I had 11-6. You had 12-5. Our win-loss predictions. But I don't know if you remember that episode. At the end of the episode, I made a case for them to go 15-2. It was sarcastic. It was an overreaction. It was just a little fun. But this team is a team that could go on a run and win 12, 14 games easily with the way it's trending right now.
Yeah, Kyler Murray doesn't scare me. Arizona doesn't scare me. They were another team. I don't know if you have our list. Did I have that game as a loss?
I have the list right here. So you had week 5. I had week 5 as a loss to the Cardinals. You had as a loss. So we both had them 3-2 to start the season. And I think we were both just trying to be conservative at that point.
Yeah, I think it's.
We didn't want to sound homerish to have them at 5-0 or anything like that.
But obviously, being 4-0, I'm looking at this game differently. I'm looking at how Arizona, had trouble with the Panthers, who in my opinion, are really bad. I think the Panthers.
They struggled with a very
I
bad.
think the only reason the Panthers are even considered relevant right now is Christian McCaffrey. And he's not even having a Christian McCaffrey type season.
On a side note, can we say that we all overrated Matt Rule as a head coach?
Oh
I mean,
God.
we all thought he was going to turn that Carolina Panthers franchise around.
Oh, Matt Rule is horrible.
This is his third season, isn't it? I'm pretty sure this is his third year. How has he not been fired yet? They had a lot of hype. They gave him a huge 5-year contract down there. He's in his third season, and he is not done anything.
The problem is, and it all goes back to, it's funny that we kind of, I don't want to say lucked out, but I'm so glad that we took Jalen Hurts in that, second round.
Yeah,
it goes back to quarterback. That your team goes as your quarterback goes. You look at all the good teams, even if they're good teams, if they have a good quarterback, they're in it. I mean, the Chiefs have Mahomes, the Chargers have Herbert, Eagles have Hurts. You go down the list, and then you go to Carolina, it's Baker Mayfield. Last year it was Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to go back probably 4 or 5 years to when Cam Newton was still relevant, and
not even good relevant.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a problem. So yeah, Carolina. I don't think you can ignore the fact that Matt Rule's a bad coach, but I think at the end of the day, they don't have a good quarterback, and unfortunately, teams that don't have good quarterbacks, that is why they continue to kind of look.
Yeah,
because if you don't have one, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Just so you know, the Eagles are already 5.5-point favorites next week. It's in Arizona, which means that on a neutral field, the Eagles would be a 8.5-point favorite because you get 3 points being the home team, and then they level out the points and the lines after that. So they're saying that the Eagles on a neutral field are more than a touchdown better than the Arizona Cardinals. That tells me something. The Arizona Cardinals were a team that had a lot of hype. I actually said in the offseason that the Arizona Cardinals should fire Cliff Kingsbury right away. I also said that Kyler Murray didn't deserve that big contract. He hadn't done enough, at that point in his career. But he got it. Cliff Kingsbury and him, dude, they're not going to make it through the season. I mean, you go back and watch some of yesterday's game, just fast forward it, you'll see multiple times where the two of them are, Kyler Murray's just mouthing things on the field because he doesn't like what's coming through his headset, in his helmet. You can see them butting heads on the sideline. Dude, it's a recipe for a disaster down there in Arizona. It really is. And it's a shame Zach Ertz is there because, he's still, I think he had a touchdown yesterday. I don't know. I know he had a couple big catches yesterday. He's still down there doing his thing. And you hate to see a former Eagle down there, in that bad situation. But that Cardinals team is going to blow up. And it's going to blow up scary.
Yeah, not to get off the subject, but speaking of the Cardinals, did you see that J.J. Watt tweet?
Yeah, I did see it. I wasn't even sure if it was legit or not.
Well, why would he lie?
I don't know. It was just weird. It came.
If that really happened,
the fact that he played, yeah, insane. Just shows what kind of crazy guy. Let me hold on. Let me pull up the Cardinals box score from yesterday and see if he even played in the game. He said he was going to play in the game. I didn't notice him on the field. I was flipping between two games, and I was flipping through golf.
He had a tackle.
Yeah. He had a couple tackles, two passes defended. Yeah, that just shows you something. Yeah, they just struggle. 207 yards, Kyler Murray, 26 rushing. Kyler Murray I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me. He just doesn't.
The problem with Kyler Murray is he's hype. he got that big contract now too.
He was all hype. All hype.
Listen, I think if you put him next to Jalen Hurts, obviously he was a higher prospect coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a baseball he would have been better. I'm going to tell you, this is a hot take.
Yeah.
He would have been better off staying in baseball. He would have probably been a better player.
You can make more money in baseball too.
I'm telling you,
protect your body a little bit more.
I think he made a big mistake because I'm not saying he's not good. He's not a terrible quarterback, but he's just not. He's not where he's rated. Like, he's very overrated. And
I mean, you put the two of them side by side. This sounds like an overreaction Monday statement because I might get crushed for this. If you had to tell me right now who I would want over the next 5 years on my team, Hurts or Kyler Murray, I'm taking Jalen Hurts. Because do you ever see Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni butting heads when things aren't going right? Do you ever see Jalen Hurts talking down to his teammates when things don't go right? Do you ever see Jalen Hurts, fighting and arguing with anybody? And that's the intangibles. That's what a leader is. And I've said it since day one. You can win in the NFL with average talent, but exceptional intangibles. And we're seeing that Jalen Hurts has better than average talent because he's gotten better, but he's always had the exceptional intangibles. And it's showing right now. And
he leads by example. Last in, last out. I mean,
first in,
last out. He's out at 8:30.
He's the last one. He shows up to practice 30 minutes late.
You know what I meant? 8:30 p.m. He's still at the at the weight room. I mean, what does that show his team?
Absolutely.
I mean, they can't argue that he's he backs up what he talks with his walk. That's what he does.
There's literally no doubt in that whatsoever. He does. And look, I'll take it a step further. I would rather Nick Sirianni over Cliff Kingsbury, and Cliff Kingsbury was the one with all the hype. I'll take that over it. I'll take the pair, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, over their pair any day. I'll take all of it.
Kingsbury's going to end up being fired. He's not a good coach. I think he has too much talent on that team to be.
We will let's give him the one thing. They are missing DeAndre Hopkins. He has been suspended. So let's not take that out of the equation. And they brought in Marquise Brown, and I said that the day he was, brought into the Cardinals, that Marquise Brown was overrated in Baltimore. But you just kind of, people forget about that. So let's see what the Cardinals are.
I disagree with that. I think it's showing. I think Marquise Brown was underused in Baltimore because Lamar doesn't really pass a lot.
Right.
I think you're seeing Marquise Brown actually have a breakout year. If you look at his numbers, what he's putting up, he's actually been their best player on the field.
Because he is their best player on the field. Hey, we got to take a quick 30 seconds here. DSM Media is brought to you now. We got a new sponsor, Gents Barber Lounge. Today's show is brought to you by them. Check out one of their 2 locations in Fishtown and Old City and book your appointment today. Gents owns the craft, and it shows. Rated the #1 barbershop on Yelp in the Philadelphia area, multiple award-winning barbers, and be able to handle any style of cut for any adult or kid. Check out this quick video here real quick, and we'll be right back in 15 seconds. Thank you to Gents Barber Lounge for sponsoring DSM Media at this point. But anyway, back to the conversation. Sorry, I got to remember to keep putting that. It's brand new, just starts this week, and I almost forgot to play it. I'm supposed to play it at some point each episode. We'll see what happens there. Let's see how many times I forget that over/under, but try not to forget it. Back to the conversation at hand here. Let's wrap this up because I do want to spend 10, 15 minutes talking Phillies, and this weekend and how it all played out. Is there, again, to wrap it up, there's no doubt in my mind the Eagles are the best team in football. And there's no way anybody could think going into next weekend that we're not going to win. The confidence of this team and the confidence of the city in their team has to be sky high right now. And if you find me someone that is concerned or doubtful of the Eagles, I'll tell you that they don't know what they're watching on football.
I mean, yeah. we can have him on the show. Let's bring him on the show.
Whoever wants to come on the show and tell me that the Eagles are not a good football team, the best in the league, and that they're destined to lose, bring them up. You're welcome. Open invitation, because this team is not bad. This team is great. They check every single. What do you look for when you're looking for a Super Bowl team? A great quarterback that leads their team, a coach, a great play caller, people that know how to adjust, pressure on a quarterback, winning the turnover differential, being able to win in all kinds of elements. I mean, check. I mean, it's literally straight down the board, Jason.
They're just checking off boxes left and right.
Every box that you need to check for a winning team.
The next box that I need to see, and I don't know when it's going to come, because I don't know when it's going to happen, but the next box that I need to see is how this team responds to adversity.
Absolutely.
What do we do when they lose a game or two? What if they have a 2-game losing streak? How do they respond? That, to me, is the sign of a champion.
I almost can't wait to see the loss, to see the week after the loss on how they respond. Now, I got 2 other questions with this team. We talked about the injuries. The next man up mentality is another box that they check so well on this team. There was another injury yesterday. I forgot. Jake Elliott got hurt yesterday as well. He got hit on a field goal attempt. You know, he got hit on his plant leg. He tried kicking again. He made a short field goal. Then they went for it on every other opportunity to kick instead of bringing him out. That could have been part weather, part his injury. That will be a concern to watch this week. If they bring in other guys to kick this week to try them out. But Howie Roseman, to me, I mean, I think they cleared like a bunch of cap space at the beginning of the season. Howie Roseman's on the clock right now with Jalen Hurts. You can now start to work on an extension from him now. Do you work on that extension now? Because every week that he checks more boxes and gets closer to an MVP caliber season, that price tag starts to go up. And we've seen it in the past. Last year, Dallas Goedert, Javonte Maddox, Josh Sweat all got signed by week 5 or 6 to their extensions before they took even further off. Is Howie Roseman going to start working with Jalen Hurts' agent on his extension now? Have we seen enough as an unbiased Eagles fan to commit to Jalen Hurts long term, even though we've got those 2 first-round picks?
Okay.
Or do you let it play out through the end of the season and risk potentially having to pay him $250 million?
I think if you put yourself in Howie Roseman's shoes, they came into this year not really necessarily saying that Jalen is a long-term man. I mean, they said it with their lips, but the actions didn't prove that.
Right.
So I think when they went through this situation with Carson Wentz, it really it did a number on them. I mean, it did. Like,
Absolutely.
I know he came out quickly, and that credit goes to Howie and Jeff and the whole organization for being able to get through that. But make no mistake about it, Carson Wentz screwed the Eagles. I mean,
absolutely,
they gave him all that money, and then he basically forced his way out. So I don't necessarily think, even though I think as a fan, as fans, I think it would be smart if the Eagles lock him up now. I don't necessarily think Howie Roseman thinks that way, because I think he's more on the on the thing of like, well, we got burned once. Now we're going to be more patient, and we're going to make sure we have the right guy. Mm-hmm. So even if it does cost them more money, I think in the long run, it's a better business decision, because he's going to be kind of managing it from where they went, from what they had to deal with Carson. So I don't necessarily.
My question is, if you're I get what you're saying, and I think you're kind of on the right line there with that. I'm looking at 2 other things. I'm looking at $250 million is about the going rate for a star quarterback. That's what Kyler Murray got. That's what Lamar Jackson's about to get. That's what Deshaun Watson got. I said it before the season, and George, said no, and everybody, kind of said, nah, you can't commit like that. I'm like, why don't you just offer him like a 4-year, $100 million deal? Now, he's not going to take that now, but, wouldn't it be smarter to try to, I mean, the salary cap keeps going up. If the $250 million deal takes up 30% of your salary cap, a $150 million deal right now will take up less. It'll be harder to get out of than if you give him $250 million and then he bombs. But on the flip side, if you're Jalen Hurts, are you accepting $150 million right now, knowing that Lamar Jackson just turned down 250 and he'll probably get more than that? Are you going to bet on yourself and hope for that 250, 260?
Yeah, I don't think Jalen would even sign a deal that's not worthy.
Yeah, that's the other end of it. How he might want to, but would Jalen want to at this point?
I mean, listen, Jalen, I think, has bet on himself his whole life. I mean, we see it. People have doubted the guy.
Think about it. There's always that risk of injury. There's always that risk of anything. Someone puts $150 million check in front of you, that could set up your family for 10 generations. You know what I mean?
So he signed 2 weeks ago by me, but
you would have signed for $150 2 weeks ago, right?
Exactly. I mean, listen, I think it's a good question. I think it's a good topic of conversation. Like, will Howie sign Jalen early, or will they wait?
They don't even have to sign him this year. They don't have to sign him in the offseason because he's still got all of next year. He's under contract. He's not going to want to play at the last year of his deal next year. But you see how Lamar Jackson's situation's playing out. It could turn into a similar situation. You got the franchise tag and stuff like that. So the Eagles have options. But it's just something in the back of my head that I want people to keep an eye on. That what happens because Howie Roseman, he does the same thing. He might have changed a little bit as a GM, but he has always been a guy that has locked up guys long term in the season and before they reach free agency. So it's just something to keep an eye on. And I'm just curious to see how it plays out this season if they even come close to doing it. So anyway, we'll keep this Eagles talk going all week long here on Trending in the AM. Obviously, great 29-21 win for the Eagles. They are 4-0 for the first time since 2004 when we went to the Super Bowl with T.O. and Donovan McNabb. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but hey, maybe. You never know. You're going to the Super Bowl?
Monday. Overreaction Monday.
You're saying it. Okay. Who's going to stop them in the NFC? The Packers, who barely won yesterday, who took, to overtime to beat a Patriots team led by a third-string quarterback. I don't know if you saw it, but Brian Hoyer got hurt, so they had to go to their third stringer yesterday. And they still were able to keep it close and almost. Who are they going to stop us? The Bucs got smoked. Who's going to stop us? Nobody. So, yeah. All right. So, I want to spend the last 10 or 15 minutes talking Phillies. Real quick, today, anybody watching, if you want to hang out at 3 o'clock to about 8 o'clock tonight, I will be at the Barnaby's in Westchester. There's a charity event going on there. Money goes to a great event. There's going to be auction, raffles. It's $50 all you can eat and drink at the Barnaby's in Westchester. I'd love to have anybody that watches the show come on out, say hello, help support a great charity. It goes to the money raised tonight. It goes to a charity fund, a scholarship fund for kids that have lost parents in the line of duty. And that's what the money that gets raised goes to, a charity fund. Friend of my wife's father was a retired police officer. Then he passed away. So his sons run this charity event every year, the Jerry Stepke Memorial Fund. Golf obviously got canceled because of the weather today. So instead of 5 o'clock dinner, it starts at 3 at the Barnaby's in Westchester. Come on out and say hello. And we'll talk Eagles, and we'll talk Phillies. And we'll talk about the magic number of the Phillies, Jason, being 1.
Uno.
This 11-year drought is 1 game away from ending. An overreaction Monday for all the bitching and moaning I have done and how I still don't care if they make the playoffs. I still want a new manager in here, and the team needs changes. Whatever. Overreaction Monday statement, it is still massive for the Phillies to make the playoffs, even if they just lose their first 2 games and get knocked out right away from the playoffs. It is such a huge moment for this organization through all the adversity that they've gone through this year and all the problems they've gone through. I still want them to make the playoffs, and I still want to see it because it's a huge deal for this team and this organization.
I'm with you 100%. Can't even – and you know me, I'm usually negative, but, yeah, I want to make the playoffs. I mean, listen, we make it and we get bounced. At least we know we could still make changes, but at least we know we can make it.
Mm-hmm.
I think making it in itself, especially for a team and an organization that's been plagued by, I don't want to call it ineptitude, but I think the Matt Klentak regime was inept. So I'm going to call it that, ineptitude. We've been plagued with, bad decision making, a piss poor farm system. All these things can kind of go to the wayside if we make the playoffs because, like I said, we haven't made it since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been a very long time, and that era was a different era of baseball. That was the golden era, golden era number 2. Could this be the beginning of golden era number 3? Who knows? Because I know this team does need some changes. We all agree.
There could be a drastically different team that takes the field next year, even if they make the playoffs here.
But I do think that making the playoffs can always be a stepping stone, especially for a team's personality and a team's confidence.
Absolutely.
I mean, you look at what happened in 2007 when the Phillies made it and they got swept by the Rockies. You can't tell me that didn't propel them to be wanting to be better.
It propelled somebody like Cole Hamels to the next year. I was at the Cole Hamels game 1 in the Rockies series there in 07. And the difference he looked from 07 to 08, just from how he lost that game, was drastic. And that's the key right there to me. It's the young player. Bryce Harper, he's been there. He's done that. You know what I mean? I don't think JT's been to the playoffs, but he's a veteran player. Getting to the playoffs for Alec Boehm, for Aaron Nola, for
Zach Wheeler,
Ranger Suarez, for Sir Anthony Dominguez. Who else is young? Brandon Marsh. Who?
Wheeler.
Zach Wheeler. Right, but he's a veteran, Zach Wheeler. I mean, I don't care if you've never been to the playoffs. Once you get to a certain part of your career, I think it's a little different. But the young kids getting that playoff experience and that taste, because I don't care whether you win or lose. Every single major sports league, a playoff baseball game, a playoff football game, a playoff hockey game, it's a different atmosphere. It's a different ball game. The intensity level is ramped up a little bit.
Sucks and that we're not going to have any home games.
Yeah, it sucks that we're not going to have any home games unless they win the series, and then you never know. But that's going to be a tough call right there. Looks like we might be playing the Mets now because the Braves have overtaken the division.
Wow, that could be. What do the Mets do?
The Mets, I don't know. The Mets are falling apart, or the Braves are just playing really well.
Do they still try to line up their rotation, or do they just play it out now? Because I
have no idea. I don't even know what the magic number is for the division for those guys. What I want to see is Aaron Nola tonight come out. So we got 3 games left. The Brewers have 3 games left. Brewers, I believe, are against the Diamondbacks. We got 3 games against Houston. Houston is not resting their guys, surprisingly, but it is what it is. So it's a 1 magic number. For those that don't know, either the Brewers have to lose 1 of their next 3 games, or all we have to do is win 1 of our next 3 games. Aaron Nola goes tonight against McCullers. I just kind of want to see Aaron Nola come out and just shut the door and end the season right now. Get the win tonight, get it done with, and just playing the Cardinals because my bad. Yeah. Which, whatever. We'll still lose that. We'll lose to anybody there. But I kind of want to see Aaron Nola come out tonight and just, all right, we're not going to put it in anybody else's hands. It's over right now.
I like that. I mean, Aaron Nola, we talked about it. He actually has had surprisingly a pretty good September. He surprisingly had a pretty good September, other than the 1 game where I think he gave up. I forget what game.
Well, two of his last 3 now have been bad because he got rocked by not rocked per se, but he got beat up by the Cubs in his last outing where he gave up 4 runs. So he still got an under 3 ERA in the month of September. It's just it was much better before that last Cubs game last week.
Yeah, he needs to come out and be lights out tonight. 7 innings, double-digit strikeouts. Just shut him down.
Yeah,
because
don't put it in other people's hands.
I don't have faith in our offense on a consistent basis. That's
you have faith in their offense. They got McCullers tonight. They got Justin Verlander tomorrow night. I mean, Justin Verlander is literally our age, and he's still pitching at a Cy Young level. And the guy's had 10 arm surgeries in the last 4 years. And the guy still lights out. I just can't imagine how good Justin Verlander has become. He was always really good, but at the end of his career here, he's still going really strong at this point.
Yeah, I mean, definitely surefire Hall of Famer.
Oh my God,
mean,
yeah.
He's definitely bucked the trends, performing the way he is at his age.
I mean, he's 17-4 with a 1.8 ERA and a .85 WHIP.
Yeah, he's going to win the Cy Young.
He's 39 years old. He's got 175 Ks. It's insane. Literally insane what he's put out there this year. Literally insane.
I mean, listen, yeah, you marvel at that because, like I said, those kind of guys are not around. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see the same things that we saw 20, 25 years ago.
Right.
When you had guys, pitching complete game. Even, I mean, I think Roy Halladay was the last player to have more than 10 complete games.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going back 10 years, 11 years.
Like that. It's crazy. It's crazy to think. So do they get it done tonight, the Phillies?
Yes. I want to believe it. I want to believe it. Yeah, I think they win. They're going to win where the Brewers are going to lose tonight. So it's going to be
So
over.
they're going to lock it up tonight no matter what. Here, hold on. Let me pull up the Brewers here. Let's see who they got in the matchup tonight. Let's see here. It's the Diamondbacks. Is this the Zach Gallen game? No, they got Brandon Woodruff going for them, the Diamondbacks. No, that's a Brewers pitcher. Tommy Henry, one of those guys without a profile picture, is going for the Diamondbacks tonight. He's 3-4 with a 5.98 ERA in 40 innings this year. So the Brewers are probably not looking good, but the Brewers have really we talk about the Phillies collapse. The Brewers have kind of collapsed 10 times more.
Well, they lost to the Marlins yesterday after coming back twice.
They lost multiple games. I think they lost. Did they get swept by the Marlins? I know they lost the last two. They may have gotten swept by the Marlins. It's pretty bad how they performed. I mean, we talk about the Phillies and how they've collapsed and fallen apart late. The Brewers are collapsing even worse.
Well, the Brewers' collapse has everything to do with the way that they handled the trade deadline. I mean, they traded away their star closer, and when they traded him, he imploded with the Padres. I mean, he was taking out of that position, and the guy that they inserted as their closer, he imploded. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was like there was a lot of people on that team that were pissed off when they made that trade. A lot of people voiced their opinions. So I think that was the turning point for Milwaukee. If you look at it, if you look back at their season, that's when they started kind of going downhill because Milwaukee was actually playing very good baseball.
Yeah.
Early summer. And then.
All right. So I don't actually think the Phillies pull the win out tonight, Jason. I think both teams lose tonight, Phillies and the Brewers. So we get down to the final two games. We'll see. I do know Zach Gallen goes in one of those games.
What happens if we lose and they lose? We still win?
Yeah, I mean, if they lose out and we lose out, then we still win.
No, I mean, if they lose tonight and we lose, is it locked
still
up?
One. The magic number's still one.
It's not locked up?
No. We need to win one game.
Oh.
Or they've got to hold on. No, if they lose tonight, we lock it up no matter what. Yeah. It's a magic number of
That's
one.
So
yeah. So if they lose tonight, then we lock it up. So we lock it up. So can you see the team losing 5-1 and then celebrating? that would be kind of hilarious that they get to celebrate after losing tonight.
That would be so silly.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up Trending in the AM right there. Again, if you're anywhere near Westchester tonight, come on out from 3 to 8, 3 to 9, depending on how late I want to stay up tonight. I'll be there. Great charity event. $50, all you can eat, all you can drink, raffle prizes, 50/50s, auction items, everything going on there. Come on out and say hello. We'll talk some Phillies. We'll talk some Eagles. I think the Sixers even have their first preseason game tonight. I'm sure that'll be on the TV there. Back tomorrow, Trending in the AM. We'll talk more Eagles. We'll see if the Phillies have wrapped it up. Maybe we'll talk some Sixers. I don't know. Dylan will be on with me tomorrow morning. Everybody have a great Monday. It's wet out there, but, it is what it is. Everybody have a great one, and go Birds.
Go Birds.